welcome to Lab 4, Basics of MIDI. In this lab, we'll explore the basics of not only recording MIDI data, including things like step input and instrument creation, but then also how to use the audio MIDI setup as well as the process of editing MIDI. Today, we'll really focus on sort of importing a MIDI file and creating instruments for that MIDI file, and then also how to sort of edit the MIDI after the fact. More so in Lab 5 and 6, we'll mess around with recording MIDI data. So yeah, the objectives for today's lab are, as always, to properly label, set up, and save the Pro Tools project. We're going to customize the coloring scheme because we got to stay organized. We're going to import something called a .mid file, which is a MIDI file. We're going to bring that into Pro Tools, and we're going to create instrument tracks and assign something called virtual instruments to those tracks. If you haven't already, I would make sure if you go under the Pro Tools license, if you go to the install instructions and you head on over to the link, the download link, maybe a little slow here. You want to, instead of going to Pro Tools 2024, you want to go to Pro Tools plugins. I have a Mac, so I'll go there. And you want to make sure you have this Air Instruments bundle, that you have both downloaded it and installed it. Make sure when you download it and then install it that you restart Pro Tools so that it identifies these new plugins. If you do that correctly, you'll see here in a minute when you go to the instrument menu under Inserts, you will see those plugins. If you don't see them, you should go back to the instruction steps where it has you actually download the Pro Tools as well as the Air Instruments Bundle 23.3.1 Mac. So make sure you do that before you get going. We'll also adjust some common parameters once we get the MIDI in there, things like velocity, pitch bend, audio and MIDI volume, and then we'll create a basic mix. So as always, you get 5 points for session setup and 5 points for organization. You get another 5 points in this lab for importing the MIDI data and setting up instruments for that, as well as editing and creating some MIDI automation. Finally, you get 5 points for turning it in the correct place in the correct format. So let's jump into the instructions here. You can see there's some shortcut keys here, not too many new ones today. So the first step we're going to do is go ahead and create a session. I have already gone ahead and created a session. Make sure you follow the steps, of course, right? So make sure that you name it properly. It's wave 24-bit 4-4-1, and make sure those I/O settings are stereo mix. Cool. You might ask you where you want to actually save it. I just have it saving to the desktop. So if you can see, we have this current session open here. And yeah, if we go ahead and look here on our desktop, we should see year, month, date, your name, or year, moth, day, your name, lab 4. And right now, there's probably not much in it. We have our session file here, but the audio files are blank. And all the other files are blank because we haven't done anything in our session yet. So the lab asks us to go ahead then and download what we call this .mid file. It's Billie Jean. You may know this song from back in the day. If you look here, it just looks, I have it downloaded in my desktop. So here it is, the Michael Jackson, Billie Jean. It's just .mid file. All you have to do is actually take the file and you could drag it into the playlist. That's not a great place. You could actually drag it into the clips as well. But if you drag it over here to the left-hand side to the tracks list, look what happens. It not only brings it in, but then you can tell it, I want it to create new instrument tracks for each MIDI. You could have it import tempo map and key signature. I'm not going to have to do that, but I'm going to have it place it at the session start. So when I hit OK, boom, we have a bunch of MIDI in our session. So I'll option drag to kind of make all our MIDI a little bit bigger. If you notice though, if I press play, you don't hear anything. There's really nothing going on, and it looks like all the MIDI's kind of like grayed out. Well, if you notice here under the instrument section on each MIDI track, there's nothing selected. So not only is there no instrument under the inserts here, but there's also nothing, no instrument is assigned to this MIDI information. So let's fix that. So I think the lab says one of the first things we can take a look at is this MIDI 8 track. I believe MIDI 8 is actually a drum track. So you can go ahead and put some boom on it. So we'll do that in a second. And I think that's MIDI 08. So let's real quickly first go and rename MIDI 08. We'll double click on it. And then here is our name the track window, and we'll call this drums and hit OK. And then what I'm going to do is on this first insert here, insert A, I'm actually going to click there, and I'll go to multi-channel plugin, and then I'll scroll down, see where it says instrument here, and then look at under instrument. Now I have tons of instruments in my computer, but you should at least have some of the basics like boom and vacuum. So I'm going to go ahead and put boom on there. You may remember boom from Lab 2. If you don't, you probably have short-term memory problems, or you just didn't do Lab 2. That's kind of a joke and kind of cruel. Anyways, let's go back to the start, and we should hear a little bit of drums. Great. You're not hearing any drums right now because one thing I need to do is, just for the walkthrough sake, I'm going to go ahead and not only have the output be 1 and 2, but also have it go to the audio bridge so that you can hear it through QuickTime. So let's take another listen. I don't think I did control, so hold on. Option Shift Control, and then I think I can also make it output 1 and 2 so I can hear it. Great. Now everyone can hear it. You can hear it. I can hear it. We can all hear it. Everybody got a car. Thanks, Oprah. All right. So, cool. We're hearing some drums. If you don't like this kit, you could always change the drum kit to something else. There's like Urban, like Keith Urban, I guess. Ooh, that's a little heavy. Here's dance. What about retro? Nah. No, fat. That's too much. I can't handle that. I think 9.0 would probably get it done. All right. I believe then the next track above it is the bass. So let's go ahead and select that track. We can close boom by just closing the window here. You can also click on the actual insert to open and close the boom window. Yeah, I think this one's bass. So let's go ahead and call it bass. By the way, I'm going to change the color of the drum track to yellow, just so that I know what it looks like. I'll also change the clip to yellow as well. I can do that by clicking on that. And then for bass, I can change the bass. I usually like to do purple, and I'll make the clip purple as well. Right now, I'm not getting any color because it's grayed out, right? So I need to go ahead and assign an instrument to it. So I think for the bass, I'll go ahead and use, let's see, in the lab, do I tell you to use, I think I asked you to use, I think I just have you do keys. Let's do this. I think this is the bass track. So let's just use, let's use vacuum. There might be a good one there. So if I click on the first insert here, go to multi-channel plugin and instrument, I should see a synth called vacuum. If I open that up, notice how it lit up because now there's something going on here. Let's take a listen. Well, this is not working. So what I can do is let's go to bass, and what's a good bass? Let's try like, I think there's one called like mini something. Wooden bass actually works for this, or not. I think that actually works pretty good. Okay, but for it to be Billie Jean, we need those strings. So I believe MIDI 06 are those strings. So I'll go ahead and label it strings, and I'm going to go ahead to the first insert on that track and go to instrument. And yeah, I guess I could use Vienna Instruments if I wanted to. Let me not be a jerk here. Let's use Expand 2. and I won't flex all the cool plugins I have. Let's instead here go to expand. Now, if you look at expand, there's like lots of knobs and a lot of stuff going on. But if you want to access the different patches, there's a tiny little disclosure triangle here. And if you click on that, it opens up just like all these patches. So let's go to like strings. And I think there's ones called like big, I think they're called like big legato strings. Let's try that. So we'll do that. And then let's go to the string part here. Yeah, that might be the actual patch they used in the original Billie Jean back in the 80s. So after you've, by the way, I think also this top track is just like a vocal or whatever. So I would go through and just assign an instrument to all the different MIDI. Some of these later ones are kind of weird to figure out what they are. So if you're trying to figure out what they might be or what part of the song they are, if you're not familiar with it, you can just, apply an expand instrument to it and then just see what it's doing, and then find a more appropriate track or a different track that you think might work, or a different patch. So once you've done all that, it has you just like kind of go through here. Then you can actually go and edit the MIDI. So if you wanted to, you could go through and edit individual notes. It talks a little bit about that. We'll get more into that in the next lab. Instead, what we could do is use some of the common MIDI parameters and change some of those. So let's give it a shot here. By the way, we're in clips view. So if I go to notes view, look what I could do. I could actually go in and I could start editing different notes here. Let me like zoom in a little bit, make it a little bit bigger. I can see here's my different string notes here. So if I wanted to, I could like select them all like I do here. And if I use my pencil tool, I can make them like all longer, which is not really the vibe of the song. But I could make them longer. I could change them. Ooh, it sounds more dramatic now, doesn't it? Okay, let's stop messing around. So we can mess with the notes. We could draw on new notes. So I could have this note at the top here. By the way, I'm just using the pencil tool. Notice how it's allowing me to draw on other notes. So I could have that held note, whatever. That's not really the point of the lab. What you can do though is we're in notes view. There's also a bunch of other different views. There's something called like velocity. There's pitch bend. Let's try this one. This one is stupid. Let's do it. So if I do some crazy drawing with my pencil tool here, it'll create some pitch bend changes. Let's hear how that sounds. Not really great. There's some other things we could do. We could change the audio volume, so I could have it be really loud and then really quiet. Yeah, so there's all types of cool things you could do. I'm hitting Command Z to undo all of these atrocities that I'm doing to this track. There's another one called velocity. And the cool part about velocity is if you go in and take a look, you kind of zoom in, what you can see here is I can actually go, and if I select specific notes, let's make sure I have my grabber tool, I can actually go and change the velocity of those notes. So here it is with the velocity all the way up. And if I turn the velocity down, here, let's get rid of this other guy here, the long held note. I'll just get rid of that for right now. So here's with my velocity turned quite a bit down. And let's see what happens if I turn it up. So you can see that kind of affects the patch. And sometimes if the patch is velocity dependent, if it has a higher velocity, it might use a different sample or a different like patch or different configuration to sort of go ahead and give you the sense that, it's being played louder. So it's not always like a volume thing. Velocity sometimes just calls a different patch change. So if you're like using a snare, there might be, if it's a low velocity, it'll be a different sounding snare than if you're playing it really loudly. Just like how when you play a snare in real life, if it's super loud, it might have a different tone than if you're playing it softly or with a different type of stick. So after you've done all that, the only other thing the lab really asks you to do is to go ahead and save it. So I can just do a Command S to save it. Now, here's the thing about backing it up. So far, I've wanted you to zip the entire folder, right? And save the entire folder, because in there would be all the audio files you need and any bounce files, as well as the session file. But if you notice, in this lab, we're only using MIDI. So there is no audio, and right now there's no bounce. So if you wanted to, on this lab only, you could just turn in the PTX file. Which, by the way, this is why people like working with MIDI, because it's only, look at this file is only 467 kilobytes. So it's a really small file. And so it's like really easy to share and copy and move around, and you don't have to worry about all the other folders. If you want to, though, you can still go ahead and just right-click on Lab 4 and go ahead and compress the whole folder and just save it as you normally would. Go ahead and upload it to Google Drive and share the link in Canvas. So I would recommend doing that. It's just good practice to save the whole folder. But really, for somebody to open this session up and make sense of it, all they would need is the PTX file. And then, of course, they would have to have the plugins that you have, so the different instruments. But these are the standard Pro Tools plugins, so they should work as long as the other person has those plugins downloaded as well. Well, that's Lab 4. Remember to have some fun. If you want, you can create an authentic remake of Billie Jean. If you want to use all tubular bells or like the sounds of cats meowing, that's fine too. Have some fun with it, but most importantly, just get comfortable with creating, instrument tracks and putting instruments or assigning instruments on those tracks.